Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino is in his feelings a little bit these days, and he is lashing out publicly following a scathing New York Post piece, pretty damning report. And it was published by someone who's actually a Trump supporter. Her name is Miranda Devine, but she's willing to report the truth to her credit. And so the piece that I'm referring to was something we talked about on the show this week. Damning report labels FBI rudderless ship under Kash Patel, with him and Dan Bongino more concerned with building personal resumes. Now, we shared the initial story with you, but I do want to talk a little bit about the reactions from Bongino in particular, because he's also getting shellacked by members of Trump's base over his role in redacting the Epstein files. In fact, these redactions started taking place way earlier in Trump's second term than most people realize. So, Cenk, your 2 cents before we get to the details.
Yeah, so on TYT.com, we're asking you, do you think that Dan Bongino wants to hide or release the files? Now, it seems like after you hear this, it's gonna seem like hide, but then at the end, I'm gonna make a case for maybe it's not. So hang around until the end before you vote. Go ahead.
So let's get to the specific excerpts from Miranda Devine's piece, who broke this story in a New York Post column. She says that a troubling new report card on the first 6 months of Patel's leadership, it concludes he is in over his head. I think that's pretty obvious. And his deputy, Dan Bongino, is something of a clown. Both he and Bongino were criticized for arrogance and an unfortunate obsession with social media. Well, them and corporate media both. One source said they need to stop talking, stop posing, and just be professional. Another said they are spending too much time on social media and public relations and are too often concerned with building their own personal resumes. Now, Devine noted that the alliance concluded their report by advising the notoriously thin-skinned Patel and Bongino to heed their criticism if they want to succeed. But Dan Bongino wasn't really having that. He's been very upset about this reporting. And so he did post about it on social media. I want to give you a little taste. He says, deep state Devine strikes again. Miranda loves attacking our reform agenda with gossipy anecdotes from disgruntled former employees because she's like, you guys are incompetent and it's obvious. Like, it shows. You have to at least have a little bit of self-awareness. Like, this is a woman who voted for Trump and writes for the New York Post. Okay, this isn't Jacobin. Like, what are we doing here? This is not a deep state individual, and we're not talking about disgruntled employees. We didn't even have to hear from anyone from the FBI. We can just see with our own 2 eyes and hear with our ears. And so let me give you the rest of his statement. Let me be fair to him. He also says that because she's upset that her reporting keeps falling apart under scrutiny. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. You can always count on Miranda for a timed hit piece when the director and I make big changes. Miranda prefers the old guard. I don't. Full steam ahead. Bro, we haven't heard from you in months. Like, I love that he's kind of presenting himself as someone who's like a mover and shaker in the FBI. Now, she did confirm that the sources she used in her piece were legit and not part of some deep state cabal. She said as much on Laura Ingram's show. We don't need to go to the video, but she did say that. Also, it's rich to call her report gossip when this is how this is how he acted on Fox and Friends just 2 months ago after being sworn in. This is like one of my favorite videos. Take a look.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Kash is there all day. We share it, our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet, I hear it. He's there, he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these 4 walls all day in DC, by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
Okay. Do you want to bring your wife to work? Like, what was that? Well, what? I have to be at work at 7:30 in the morning. I have to look at 4 walls. I'm divorced from my wife. Not actually divorced, but I have to separate from her to do my job. Like, what is this? Bongino, we didn't need the report from Miranda Devine to know that you're incompetent. Now, before we get to the Epstein files and just how far back the redactions have gone in Trump's second term, thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, do you need mommy to hold your hand while you're at work? You know, I can hear
Kash Patel sink.
Yeah, what does that prove? Okay, you and Kash Patel are next to each other at the office. You could hear the faucet. And that's why we shouldn't release the Epstein files. Or you are releasing them, and that's why we shouldn't redact them, but you are redacting them. What does the faucet or your wife holding your hand throughout the day have anything to do with any of this? I remember when I did a speech, Anna, at the National Press Club, and I lit into mainstream media back in the day, and they were like horrified by it, they were shocked. And then the lady who runs the National Press Club got up and said, you know, we work really hard. Well, no one asked you how hard you work. The problem is the work you do sucks. It tells everyone, oh, politicians are awesome and honest and they're not corrupted by money. In this case, yeah, brother, I don't give a damn about any of that. Are you gonna release it or are you not gonna release it? That's the question.
Exactly. So let's talk about the Epstein files, because this was a revelation worth knowing about, because last week Bloomberg revealed that Bongino was actually looped into emails revealing the Trump administration's sweeping redactions of the Epstein files. Now, as we all know, things got kind of hot recently with a bipartisan effort to release the Epstein files, and you would think, you know, there's been a cover up taking place. It takes place under Democratic administrations, Republican administrations, but the Trump administration, quite frankly, has done a poor job in being a little more sophisticated and more manipulative when it comes to their cover up. They just made it very obvious. So you're thinking, okay, well then they probably started to, like, in a panic, do redactions fairly recently. But no, that's actually not the case.
You know what TYT has always been about? Taking on the corrupt, greedy establishment. For us, it's the corporate media. We've been fighting that fight for over 20 years. For the cell phone industry, it's the same story. A handful of massive corporations ripping you off. That's why we're partnering with Noble Mobile. They're the only wireless company with the same mission as ours, to fight back. Their No Bull plan offers unlimited data for just $50 per month. But here's the best part. For any data you don't use, you get cash back. Real money that you can spend however you want. Stop letting your unused data pad the pockets of billionaires. With Noble, you take control over your data. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT and our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. So give Noble a try and make the switch today. Scan the QR code on the screen now or visit go.tyt.com/plan. That's go.tyt.com/plan.
According to Bloomberg's Jason Leopold, as I reported in March, after a botched rollout of what Attorney General Pam Bondi described as phase 1 of the release of the Epstein files, FBI Director Kash Patel ordered around 1,000 FBI special agents to team up with the Bureau's Freedom of Information Act personnel at the FBI facility in Winchester, Virginia, to prepare the Epstein files for public release. And by prepare, I mean heavily redact the files. So the army of agents from New York and Washington field offices, along with these FOIA officers, were instructed on how to review and apply the redactions to these documents. In emails Leopold received, they basically gave him more insight into what those instructions were and just how extensive these redactions happen to be. And so the effort was referred to as the Epstein Transparency Project, when we all know it's actually the opposite. They're not trying to be transparent, they're redacting like crazy. In some instances, they referred to it as the special redaction project. Now, the records Leopold got hold of also reveal the number of hours the FBI devoted to this project in hiding information from the American people, which required some agents to even work nights and weekends. So maybe that's what Bongino's complaining about. Like, he's in the office all day, all night doing redactions of the very documents he pretended to care about releasing when he wasn't in the position of power he's in at the moment. You know, when he was a Fox News host, when he was podcasting. Oh, the Epstein files, the deep state is part of a cover-up. Well, now you're part of the cover-up. So the FBI paid personnel from various divisions, including counterintelligence and international operations, $851,344 in overtime for working on the Epstein files between March 17th and March 22nd. And that's according to the documents that Leopold got hold of. FBI personnel clocked in a total of 4,737 hours of overtime between January and July. Now, Leopold states that during this period, more than 70% occurred during the month of March while personnel reviewed the Epstein files. And then on March 18th, Bongino was forwarded an email related to guidance on the type of redactions to apply. So this is real juicy stuff. What are they being told to, redact? And so this was, by the way, Bongino's second day on the job. Day 2, they're pulling him in for guidance on how to redact the Epstein files. Okay, so you can take a look at the email that Leopold was able to get hold of. I wanted to share the below as we seek guidance from the GC on the types of redactions to apply to these documents so we can process the right way out of the gate. But we got to make sure that we protect our people. We got to make sure that we protect our perverts, and pedophiles. That's what this is about. GC, by the way, just means General Counsel. So it was the FBI's Office of the General Counsel. Now, it's also important to note that the original email was sent on March 17th and forwarded on March 18th, but questions still remain on what was redacted. So this was also email 21. It's unclear what other emails were forwarded to Bongino and what was said in those emails. Leopold stated that the FBI withheld 160 pages from him. So we don't have, a full picture of Bongino's entire role in this redaction process. And Bongino didn't respond to any of those questions. He did focus on when the email was sent, though, saying that I entered on duty on March 17th. The emails in the chain you see forwarded to me at my request were sent before I began in my position. I wanted to review what have been done before I entered on duty. It was a priority, and you can see they responded immediately. I'm glad that these emails are available for your review. You look like a hostage when you purported that there were no Epstein files available for release in that pathetic interview that you did with Kash Patel. You both look like hostages. So yeah. I don't think people are buying this. And look, the issue isn't with the timing of the emails. The issue is just how extensive and how far back these redactions go within Trump's administration, within his second term. So Cenk, any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, so first of all, apparently they spent all those thousands of hours and overtime, our money, millions of dollars to get the documents redacted and ready to go in March. So what are we waiting on? Do we need to do a double redaction? What are we redacting now? So, okay, let's just note that for the record. Number 2, Bongino, I don't care about your excuses at all. I'm not interested in them. So there's only one thing I'm interested in. So you were for releasing the files, then you were against releasing the files. You were for redacting, not redacting them, now you're for redacting them. And before you said Epstein was killed in prison, now you say it was a suicide. Which one is it, brother? Which one is it? Were you lying then or are you lying now? Also, I'll add in, deep state. So where's the deep state? Where is it? I mean, you're inside the belly of the beast now. You can hear Kash Patel's faucet. That's how deep in you are, right? So where's the effing deep state? So were you lying then about a deep state, or are you lying now to cover up a deep state? I didn't say deep state, you said it, right? So I did say release the files, and so did you, and now all of a sudden, less so, right? So then back to the last thing is the question that we asked in the poll on our website, TYT.com. Is he going to, is he actually trying to release the files or hide the files? Look, Anna, I don't know that Bongino is the guy who wants to hide them the most. I think what's happening is he got in there. He didn't realize what he was going to find. What he was going to find is that Epstein was working with an intelligence agency, and now he's not allowed to say it under penalty of law. So that's why he's a hot, sweaty mess, and he doesn't know what to do. And he's like, I want to hold my wife's hand. I don't know what to do. So, okay, so I don't know. I don't know what his intent is. And what's going to happen when he leaves office, whether it's sometime during the term or afterwards, is that he's going to go back to being probably a talk show host. And when he does, his audience is going to roar and say, all right, brother, which one is it? And what happened inside there, right? And if he doesn't tell him anything, then he's useless and his career will be over. So I don't know, is he gonna wanna rescue his career after he leaves office? Maybe, maybe not. Can he rescue it while being a stooge for the establishment? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think that he alone unilaterally was gonna be able to do a damn thing. I think anyone who's smart enough and knows how these things go could have predicted that he was gonna run into a brick wall when it came to the transparency of the Epstein files. But I can't help but think about all the various things he said about the Epstein cover-up when he wasn't in a position of power. And he was incredibly vicious to, Biden's administration, to any administration that refused to release the files, as soon as he started finally talking about it publicly on his show. So what would I do in that situation? I would resign. But he doesn't want to resign, right? He likes the position of power, so he's gonna go along with it. By the way, I have to correct myself because I misspoke. I had mentioned that email was sent on the 17th. It was actually sent on March 11th and then forwarded to Bongino on March 18th. Just wanted to clarify that. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, so I think that that Bongino is not the guy who's holding things up, but you said, you'd resign. You could do one better. You could pull an Edward Snowden and be an American hero, but that would mean that you would be uncomfortable. And apparently Bongino and Cash love their comfort, so they're not gonna risk being a hero. Instead, they're probably gonna go along with the cover-up, and that's certainly what it looks like right now. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.